Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Jay Kerner for Astrology. Today we're here to talk about Mercury retrograde through its exalted sign, Virgo, from August 23rd until September 15th, 2023. With 4 placements in Virgo, we'll all feel this energy, especially with half the planets retrograde simultaneously, a rare occurrence. This Mercury retrograde through Virgo will affect Gemini and Virgo placements, especially personal placements, most significantly, especially Gemini and Virgo rising, which are Mercury ruled. 4 placements we have in the sign of Virgo include the Sun, Mercury in its sign of exaltation, Pallas Athena, and Mars. Here's an example from my natal chart. I have Mercury in the 12th house, fused with my chart ruler Venus. So although I'm a Libra rising, I have Mercury rising, which gives me a lot of traits of a Gemini rising. I also have my natal Moon and Mars at 9 degrees and 13 degrees Gemini, respectively. So if you think that I get out of Mercury retrograde scot-free, you better believe I am right here in the weeds with you. Go ahead and pull out your natal chart so you can follow along. Look between 7 degrees and 22 degrees of Virgo, as this is where Mercury retrograde will be offering an opportunity for you to review, reflect, and refine this area of your life. Mercury entered the sign of Virgo on July 28th, and it remains in Virgo until October 4th. This is a long time for the fast-moving planet Mercury. This is essentially like the universe pointing its finger and saying, take a look, I want you to focus here. These 4 placements in Virgo, the Sun, Mercury, Pallas Athena, and Mars, are opposite Saturn and Neptune in rulership in Pisces. Pisces and Neptune are the great dissolvers. It's about what's lost. And it has a lot to do with immigration. I'm not calling it migration because the way we've been using migration in the media is inaccurate. Migration implies seasonal travel and a return to the place from where you came. In this case, people are not returning. Hotels, hospitals, the hospitality industry have had an influx, a flooding of immigrants in the United Kingdom and the United States. And we don't have the means to provide for it. So this is putting a tremendous economic strain on our healthcare and hospitality industries, both of which will come to a head under this Mercury retrograde from August 23rd to September 15th. We have Mercury retrograde opposite both Saturn retrograde and Neptune retrograde at various points in this retrograde cycle as Mercury travels from 21 degrees Virgo to 8 degrees Virgo and then back toward the 21st degree. One of the major components is a long-term transit we've mentioned in previous videos, but that's Neptune retrograde in the late degrees of Pisces, sextile Pluto retrograde in the late degrees of Capricorn. This placement is about true evil hiding in the shadows. Many of you know from some personal anecdotes I've shared previously that I was raised by a malignant female narcissist, and I will share more videos on YouTube specific to my experiences with narcissism as I work directly with a lot of clients one-on-one, specifically with narcissistic abuse recovery. And at this point in my life, having so much direct experience with malignant narcissism and covert narcissism, I feel as though I have a PhD in narcissism. My mother was born under this transit with her Pluto in Leo sextile her Neptune in Libra. She is a master woe is me manipulator. And you can see here she also has her Mercury in Cancer at the evil degree, 18 degrees of Cancer. Is it any wonder that my Saturn, 18 degrees Capricorn, that same degree, is in my 4th house, conjunct my IC, and that I'm the karmic chain breaker for the family? This transit, both Mercury retrograde opposite Saturn retrograde and Neptune retrograde in Pisces, with Neptune sextile Pluto, indicates that words are being manipulated for greater power behind the scenes. Is the motive here to negatively impact people's physical and mental health to get them dependent on pharmaceuticals, where they can manage symptoms but not cure the problem? Or addicted to a culture of comparison where the narrative is easily controlled and manipulated through censorship and social media? Is it to increase division by spreading fear and hate by focusing on how we're different when the future wants us to collaborate and focus on how we're universally similar? I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. I'm simply the messenger, the conduit, the one who translates the astrology for you. As you already know from previous videos, this year, 2023, Mercury retrogrades through the 3 Earth signs. We began the year with a Mercury retrograde through Capricorn. That was from December 29th, 2022 until January 18th, 2023, which was from 24 degrees Capricorn to 8 degrees Capricorn, and wanted us to reflect on the work that we do and whether that's aligned with soul purpose. Then, from April 21st until May 14th, we had Mercury retrograde through Taurus. This retrograde, from 15 degrees Taurus to 5 degrees Taurus, offered an opportunity for us to reflect on our resources, our overall feelings of resourcefulness, our self-worth, and our values, and coincided with Jupiter entering Taurus for its next 1-year cycle, from May 2023 until May 2024. Highly involved, aspected in several squares, during this Venus retrograde, summer of 2023. From August 23rd, the first day of Virgo season, which is not a coincidence. That's another indicator that the universe is pointing at us and saying, hey, I want you to pay attention here. From August 23rd until September 15th through Virgo, wants us to reflect and refine our approach to our nutrition and our health, our overall sense of wellness. When Mercury is in Virgo, the planet of communication, Mercury is in one of its home signs, one of its signs of exaltation, which means we can expect communication, data, and information to flow as they should and to be central themes that come up for review. However, when Mercury is retrograde in Virgo, it's a strong retrograde, so we can expect many setbacks to occur in many life areas. Likened this to Marie Kondo coming in to reorganize your entire life. If you aren't familiar with the reference, I suggest you read it. Essentially, Marie Kondo's approach to organization is to interact with each item and to ask if it sparks joy. And if it doesn't spark joy, if it brings up any feelings of pain, any past memories that you don't want to hold on to anymore, anything other than joy, that you thank it for being in your life. You appreciate it with gratitude, but then you send it on its way. You donate it or you get rid of it so that it's no longer clogging your home or your environment with unnecessary energy. And items absolutely carry energy. We will especially see a slowdown in the areas that Mercury and Virgo rule. Mercury rules transportation, communication, the media, and our conscious logical minds. We may see a slowdown in travel, events, and relationships. And with half the solar system retrograde, this is an opportunity to hermit mode and turn inward, to refocus that energy onto yourself. We mentioned that the big focus will be Virgo energy. Virgos are very service-oriented. They're very health conscious, but oftentimes it's at the detriment of their own health and their own self-care. So this is an opportunity for you to pour back into your own cup and ensure that your own needs are being met. That way you can better meet the needs of your career, of your family, of those around you that you typically serve. We mentioned that Mercury retrograde most affects the signs of Gemini and Virgo, so take a look. Gemini, Virgo rising, if you have Mercury like myself rising with your ascendant or conjunct your ascendant, or any personal placements in the signs of Virgo or Gemini, you will feel this the most significantly. You may find that this transit may turn your entire world upside down. Second to that, this Mercury retrograde will affect the mutable signs. I'll review them for you. Gemini, mutable air. Virgo, mutable earth. Sagittarius, mutable fire. Pisces, mutable water. Any of your placements, especially 7 to 22 degrees, we'll give it a 1 degree standard deviation on either side of the retrograde from 21 degrees to 8 degrees. Any of your placements here, if they're in Pisces, they will be opposite, a challenging pattern that will affect your interpersonal relationships. Any of your placements in Gemini and Sagittarius will be forming a high pressure square, a 90-degree angle, which you will feel more internally. These placements will be hit hard by this Mercury retrograde, and you'll be urged to change on a deep soul level, which may not only affect you personally, it may affect your interpersonal relationships and your career or the work that you do. On August 23rd, Mercury retrograde begins at 21 degrees, 51 minutes of Virgo. Mercury will be at the 21st degree of Virgo for an entire week, from August 20th until August 27th. So you'll have plenty of time to see what themes come up for you. Like we said, August 23rd is the first day of Virgo season. This is the day the sun exits the sign of Leo and enters the sign of Virgo. On this day, Mars is at 27 degrees of Virgo, the late degrees of Virgo, before it enters Libra, its sign of detriment or fall, where it's weakened and unable to fully express itself. Now, Virgo entered its pre-shadow period when it entered 8 degrees of Virgo on August 3rd. So between August 3rd and August 23rd, you may have already noticed miscommunications, interruptions in travel, problems in interpersonal relationships, especially as it's coinciding with Venus retrograde through Leo, and other themes of self-worth and self-care, especially in how we show up in right relationship with self and how that projects onto our relationships with other people. If we're not able to show ourselves love, then we're also unable to show our partners love. Mercury retrograde ends on September 15th when it returns to 8 degrees of Virgo, and it will also be at 8 degrees Virgo for an entire week. So these are 2 weeks of major focus. That will be from September 13th until September 19th. It's also worth mentioning that Mercury retrograde begins and ends at 2 significant fixed stars. I'll mention the fixed star at 8 degrees 56 minutes of Virgo. This is called the Black Horse, Alioth, which represents unaliving among women, danger in pregnancy, and is part of the Great Bear or the Big Dipper. Additionally, 8 degrees is associated with Scorpio, which can bring up some darker and more occult themes. I'm going to read for you the Sabian symbols for 8 degrees of Virgo. Now, normally when we read from the Sabian symbols, the screen of prophecy, because it begins at 1 degree and goes to 30, instead of the zodiacal wheel, which is 0 to 29, resetting at 29 instead of 30, we usually round up. But because Mercury retrograde, this Mercury retrograde ends at exactly 8 degrees, we don't need to round up. Virgo, 8 degrees. First dancing instruction. The theme is learning how to do it. This symbol speaks to self-perfection and learning through instruction. It also speaks to the importance of being able to function in a broad variety of social situations. The image of a first dancing instruction alludes to coordination, poise, gracefulness, and flexibility as the skills necessary for successfully handling any situation when the going gets rough. It also emphasizes the importance of encouragement. The way to begin is to begin, and any beginning requires a willingness to risk failure and try again if the first attempt doesn't succeed. The key to mastery is practice, feedback, adjustment, determination, or a refusal to give up. When I studied education at Penn State, the major theme they drilled home for us is that practice doesn't make perfect. We want to break people away from the idea of perfection because it doesn't exist. Practice makes permanent. On the positive, at its highest, this symbol represents cooperation, competence, and an extraordinary talent for finessing the desired outcome in every difficult situation. On the negative, it can represent codependency and a willingness to accept a less than desired status quo rather than risk going it alone. Today, the accent is on self-perfection and learning through trial and error. Encouragement is the key to achievement. Opportunity, your greatest advantage lies in finding the right teacher and putting the time and effort into reaching your goal. Be willing to accept constructive criticism. Admit your mistakes and correct them. Risk. Guard against giving up too soon or telling yourself that less than your best is okay. Be careful not to step on someone's toes by trying to lead when you should be following. Stepping stones: self-perfection, refinement of skills, education, mentorship, learning, practice, rhythm, maneuvering, cooperation, assistance, demonstration, performance, coordination, flexibility, social grace, and poise. As a woman with her 12th house ruled by Virgo, past life Virgo Leo, very much still this life Leo, hello, I'm here on YouTube. Overcoming perfectionism was a major theme for me in early life. If you need any pointers, any tips, any advice, you can meet me in the comment section below. But remember that practice makes permanent. I recently got my personal training certification, And we learned that while it takes just 300 repetitions to learn something, it takes 3,000 repetitions to unlearn something that you've already ingrained. Think about that. Better to learn something the right way the first time than to have to unlearn bad habits. This Mercury retrograde through Virgo, and any Mercury retrograde, it's a time to practice meditative silence. It's a time to remember that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, to listen more than you speak. Because this Mercury retrograde begins at 21 degrees 51 minutes Virgo, we will also explore the Sabian symbol related to 21 degrees Virgo, which, because it's not exactly 21 degrees Virgo, because it's 21 degrees and 51 minutes, will round up to 22 degrees Virgo. This is also where the post-retrograde shadow ends on September 28th. So these themes of perfectionism, criticism, they will carry well into October. We also have a fixed star at 21 degrees 38 degrees Virgo. This is Denebola, which is connected to perfectionism, criticism, mental illness, catastrophes, and natural disaster. Additionally, 21 degrees is known in astrology as the degree of health, healing, and growth. Virgo very much relates to research, data, and health, so look out for more information coming out into the media around these themes. Sabian symbol for 22 degrees Virgo. Remember, we're rounding up because Mercury retrograde begins at 21 degrees 51 minutes of Virgo. 22 degrees Virgo is a royal coat of arms. The theme here is the rights of privilege, the pains of privilege. This symbol speaks to the fact that there is a reason and a purpose for everything that exists. The image of a royal coat of arms symbolizes authority and certification, and it dramatizes the dignity to be found in following the traditions and customs that have been established by the elders and wise men of any society. This symbol also emphasizes inherited stewardship and the right to regulate and enforce the observance of those social rituals that strengthen and preserve a group's highest values and ideals. On the positive, at its highest, this symbol represents the ability to solidify group unity and help others recognize their common purpose. On the negative, it represents abuse of authority or manipulation and the use of devious means for controlling the unsuspected and the gullible. As an aside, I'll interrupt here to mention a couple aspects. Watch out for the Venus retrograde squaring Jupiter. This can bring up overindulging, and it can bring out a lot of overpromising and underdelivering. With Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde happening simultaneously, watch out for blasts from the past. Watch out for X's coming in hot and heavy. Anything that wants you to rush, make a decision quickly, or comes in hot and then fizzles out, watch it. Make sure the words are aligned with their actions. Look at their actions. That's all you need to know about where they're focusing their energy. Today, the accent is on inherited rights and privilege. Some group may assert their authority or pull rank based on seniority. Opportunity, your greatest advantage lies in observing precedent and following established tradition. Be sensitive to the needs of others to maintain their dignity. Risk, the risk. Guard against abusing privilege or violating social mores. Changing the rules or criticizing the way others have been doing things could be met with strong resistance and be resented. It's tough. Virgo energy incarnated to fix, to improve, to make more efficient, to make more organized. And it can be really, because it has high expectations, and I'm speaking as a past life Virgo with a lot of Virgo in my 12th house. It has good intentions. Virgo very much wants to make things better and improve, but we have to make sure that people are receptive to that feedback. Otherwise, it can come off unnecessarily critical. And I think that the generation before Gen X has their Pluto in Libra, so the generation before that, in between the boomers and Gen X, where they have their Pluto in Virgo, the generation that gave us the term Karen, for those that are nitpicky and unnecessarily critical, those with their Pluto in Virgo are a perfect example. They have good intentions. They mean well, but they have a tendency to helicopter and to project their values onto the younger generations whose values might be completely different, and it isn't received well. The stepping stones include heritage, tradition, family lineage, rulership, prerogative, privilege, license, right, authority, certification, tradition, stewardship, values, integrity, honor, and group unity. For the sake of time and not having a 45-minute video, I'm going to dive right into the specific dates that you'll need to jot down on your calendar for this Mercury retrograde. So right off the bat, we have August 23rd, Wednesday, August 23rd, which Wednesday is Mercury's day. It is the first day of Virgo season. It is my boyfriend Brian's birthday. He is 0 degrees Virgo, thankfully. Learning Virgo for me, otherwise we'd probably have way too much Virgo and it wouldn't work. We kick it off with Mars 27 degrees Virgo, directly opposite Neptune retrograde, 26 degrees Pisces. On August 27th, we have the Sun 3 degrees Virgo, directly opposite Saturn retrograde, 3 degrees Pisces. On September 6th, we have Mercury's cazimi, or rebirth, which is the halfway point in Mercury retrograde, where Mercury and the Sun align, or Mercury's combust. Mercury, whenever a planet is retrograde and aligns with the Sun, this cazimi is the planet's rebirth. It starts a new cycle. This brings in major epiphanies. Watch the news that week. Look out for important information and news coming to the light. This is great energy for making a vision board and planning for the future, especially as it relates to your own health and wellness, creating new routines. This is the only day in Mercury retrograde that would be good for signing contracts and agreements. And this conjunction happens at the karmic number 13 degrees of Virgo, which is an Aries degree, ruling production, the top of the head, the body, the blood, and the circulatory system. It also has a lot to do with the military. With the North Node in Aries, we may see an increase in military activity. On this same day, we have the half moon, the last quarter moon, 13 degrees Gemini. This is happening on top of my Mars in Gemini. I'm excited to see what unfolds. This half moon, or this last quarter moon in Gemini, is when the Sun and Moon form a challenging high pressure square, and we have, like we said, Mercury retrograde and the Sun together. So we have the Moon, Mercury, and the Sun all answering to Mercury in its sign of exaltation. Incredibly strong in Virgo. I'd like to read for you the Sabian symbol for 14 degrees Virgo. Since it's not exactly 13 degrees Virgo, we're rounding up to 14 degrees Virgo, a family tree. Keyword, gentility. Theme, background as influence. This symbol speaks to cultural heritage, origins, and traditions as a driving force that leads individuals to cherish and build on, or reject and attempt to destroy their own personal roots. The image of a family tree emphasizes background and the historical development of any present situation. On a practical level, when this degree is involved, the implication is that the real issue in any current social crisis are not those being expressed on the surface. Rather, they are deeper ones involving traditions, old alliances, and threatened relationships. Implicit in this image is the idea that each man is unique and that those who are bound in their relationships by common experiences, bloodlines, or allegiances will still at times find themselves at odds with each other as they work through their experiences together in the practical and everyday world. On the positive, at its highest, this symbol represents faithfulness to the source, while yet fulfilling the promise of an individual and unique destiny. On the negative, misconceptions concerning biological or social heritage, or feelings of alienation and a sense of rootlessness. Today, the accent is on heritage. Genealogy and questions about family roots could arise today. Tracing the origin and history of some object or issue could be time-consuming. Opportunity, your greatest advantage lies in getting to the bottom of whatever is bothering you. Ask questions and don't be misled by glib answers or sleight-of-hand cover-ups, especially opposite all these placements in Pisces. Pisces is the great dissolver. Pisces is all about illusionment and disillusion. Risk. Guard against trying to be something or someone you aren't. Be yourself and play your strong suit. Throughout this Mercury retrograde, Mercury will form several trines to Jupiter, the planet of luck, expansion, and wisdom. This is an incredibly benefic aspect. There's an exact trine on September 4th. My apologies for going a bit out of order here. This is the same day, or the day after, Venus retrograde ends. So Venus retrograde ends on September 3rd, and then Jupiter retrograde begins the very next day, September 4th. Thankfully, they're not retrograde at the same time, especially with Jupiter in Taurus answering to Venus. When Mercury retrograde trines Jupiter, specifically Jupiter retrograde, as on September 4th, this is related to uncovering information about your ancestry and heritage, getting to the root of any health-related issues, an opportunity to expand the mind, to, like a sponge, soak up new information and learn a new skill, or absorb different philosophies. If there's a subject that you've always wanted to learn about, this would be a great time to do so, or to start a new book. On September 9th, we have a more minor aspect called a semi-quadrant between the North Node of Fate and Destiny in Aries and Mercury retrograde in Virgo. This can bring a run-in with a former lover or friend, and it can happen rather unexpectedly. So you may want to be sure you're prepared to deal with the past should it pop up. On September 11th, we have a semi-sextile with Mars, which brings greater power and authority to our spoken words. We'll be better able to command attention and take actions around the promises that we make. Thank you again for tuning in, for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I'd love to hear how Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, how everything is going for you. I'd love to hear about your personal placements. And if anything from these videos, whether you're watching it for the first time now or you decide to return and revisit and share a comment after you've had some time to get through the transits, I'd love to hear from you. We're trying to build a collaborative community here in the comments section, and I invite you to be a part of that.